Yesterday I told a story about Oriel and this fence, that he watched me build a little bit in Holland. Well, he watched me build it. It was not a big fence. And he said, I don't need to go so deep with these posts. But I'm not so sure about that. I was thinking, even as I was listening to him, I knew I was going to get into some trouble. But I had to listen to him, you see, anyway. Because wouldn't you, if you were in that situation, wouldn't you listen to somebody that's 30 years older you work with, and he has a little bit of destiny under his control, a little bit of my destiny? So anyway, not only that, I respected him, but I still wasn't sure he was right about this thing. I mean, when you build a fence, you've got to go a little deep to keep those fence posts from falling down. But he's telling me, no, that's too deep. You don't need to go so far. And it's not the first time he's seen me dig something. Fact is, 7 years before, he was with me, Ariel was with me, when I buried my sweet old dog I had from the time I was 12 to 27 years old, Cindy. We buried her out in the mountains on the Oregon coast, where my foster father lived. So I'm burying my sweet dog, and he's standing there, and he's got his house slippers on. It was really cool, just giving me the moral support. It was a hard day. I had to, put her down, and it was a crummy day. The dog, he knew the dog. He was familiar with the dog because I had her out at his house in Mississippi the year before. So he knew Cindy. Anyway, so Earl's there, and my foster dad comes home, Big Earl, and they get along great. He asked me, "What are you doing? Digging a hole to put a battleship in?" And Big Earl knew Cindy. He really loved her. Cindy was a big old lab Irish setter mare. Had a black plume tail and just jet black and webbed feet. She used to swim in the lake with us when we were kids. And anyway, Ariel used her as kind of his kids kind of used her as a kind of a threat against their other kids, around the house. Poor old Cindy, 14-year-old Cindy, no threat, But anyway, that day was a crummy day, but you have to do what you have to do. And she had lived her life out, and it was time for her to be free of her misery. So Ariel and Big Earl got to talking, we took care of Cindy, and then I went inside the trailer where the door, and it followed Big Earl into, and then Earl gives me a bunch of oysters. He goes, "Fry these up." So I'm frying up these oysters, holding back my tears from my sweet departed dog, as these two guys, both about 7th grade education, drinking whiskey. I'm feeding them fried oysters and then to keep the tears out of the skillet. But it was so cool to hear and watch these guys, different backgrounds, Mississippi, Northwest, tell stories. No doubt they had their times where, both hadn't liked much of the other people's race, no doubt about that. But the beauty of it is, we cared. We're not just one race or another race. were individuals. In that moment in time, I saw two people born around 1926 or 24 or whatever. One guy white, one guy black, who cares? And, I've known them both pretty well. I hadn't known Earl too long by then, but I'd been around Big Earl for many years. And, since I moved to Oregon at one time. But anyway, yeah, it was really fine hearing them tell stories. I can't remember any specific stories, to be truthful, but it was all about, living. Earl picked brush, salad, huckleberry fern, dried out mushroom, was a sheep herder, all kinds of stuff. And Earl had done the equivalent of that kind of stuff in Mississippi, of course. And Earl was he used to play country music before he messed up his arms. He had an Epiphone guitar, so he could relate to roll that way. And it was just really fun, to see these guys both just getting along, telling stories. I wish I had a tape recorder, but I didn't at the time. But I'll tell you, it just goes to show that no matter where you come from, there's always something, you can relate with somebody else. For me, I truly love both those people, like family. Maybe kind of like sort of a dad. But, both of them, and I kind of know RL much longer than, after that. But it was just a miracle, that at the time, it was like a wonderful gift. My dog lived with me from 12, I had her from the time I was 12 to 27, and what a fine gift. Her passing allowed me to see these two people from two different worlds tell these great, wonderful stories about life, in the States, and their life, and how they lived, and whether it be cutting hay down or picking brush. Anyway, there's a whole lot to be said for getting along with people, that on the outside we're kind of different, but inside everybody bleeds, everybody has soul. Well, most people. I won't get into that in this country right now. But anyway, soul, good or evil, we have it, definitely. And those two guys, Big Earl Bemis and Mr. R.L. Burnside, had plenty of soul. But this fence thing, back to that for a moment, I couldn't possibly, say, oh no, Lord, sorry, I'm going to keep digging. So as a result, Bea comes home. Hey, great job, like I was saying last night. Unfortunately, it was not such a great job. And I held out my hand, and after she leaned on the fence, I held up my hand, looked into her snarling face. Eventually, she took my fingertips and pulled me down next to her on the ground. R.L.'s still sitting on wherever he was sitting. He's just laughing. All because he suggested I don't need to dig those damn fence posts so deep. Lord have mercy.